Okie dokie. All right, starting off here, you do need to have your bug, your starter, really popping. Now, do you see the bubbles in that? And the reason why the starter really grows and does really, really well when it's in the 50-50 form, so the 50 flour, 50 water. So when it's more liquid, it really can grow a lot more. It struggles to grow in the dough form where it has less hydration. So it's the whole reason why you have to have it popping is that you can't get it to grow when it's at half baked, when you pop it into the dough where there's less hydration. So anyway, you need to have that popping. If you see the side there, you see all those bubbles right down the side there? Yep, it's really peaked and it's good to go. Okay, now starting off, I do get my dry ingredients. So I have, I've used my scales here and I've put in, I do a double batch, so this is a bigger bowl. I've got my sugar, I've got 460 of grams of sugar, I've got 5 grams of the, what's it called, bread improver, and then I've got 90 grams of the gluten flour in there. So there are my dry ingredients, and I just whisk them together. So I just want to have them mixed. So I just turn them all in together. Great. Now I'm going to add my flour in, so I'm adding 2 kilos of flour into this, which I'll do now, and then I'm going to start the other procedure. Okay, so that's bang on. That is bang on 2 kilos there, and now I'm going to mix this in. Just showing you exactly how I do it. Okay, so right, we're ready to go. Always use my steel spoon, it's just easier to use that as a mixer. Now I do have my hot water here, it's not boiling. I can stick my hand in that, it's actually kind of gone down to just above lukewarm now, so that's all good. I don't mind it hot, just not boiling. You don't want it to be above 80 degrees, that's for sure. It'll turn into another process if you do that. So, and then I'm just mixing this all in. It does always turn into a bit of a funky, weird smell here. To be honest, like it's just a weird flour smell that always has intrigued me, but I don't know why. But anyway. Once I've done that, so I don't want to put that hot water in there with the starter. I just always am worried that I'm going to kill the starter or the bug if I do that. Hey darling, good morning. So I've just mixed that in there like that. Then I get my starter, and absolutely, to be honest, I actually don't measure my starter when I put it in. So I put in just a good amount. I've got a double load here, so it needs a fair bit. You smell that? It's quite strong. This the end of the spoon, rather doing the top of the spoon, is a lot. Is a lot easier to clean as well. So once I get it to this stage, then I am then cleaning my spoon, which is really easily done, and then I'm getting it incorporated now. So this is kind of the first knead, and I have done recently where I've really pushed the butter through in the next knead, and it's been really bad. It's totally changed the shape and even the taste and the texture of the whole thing. So I know I can't really push it through anymore. I really got to knead it. So, but it's really only the knead on the first one. Just wanting to incorporate all that flour into it, get it all mixed in. Starting your knead. So mine's not like a normal sourdough where it has high hydration. That is not the design here. I've changed this over time, many times. I've changed this over many years. I've altered this, and see how I'm just a stretch and fold almost, pulling it from one side and then, pulling it over to the middle, just starting that pattern. But anyway, I'm really just incorporating on this very first one. Okay, now that's incorporated. And so whenever I do that, I'm going to leave that there now. I'm going to leave that for 5 minutes. So let that rest. And what I do next is, that's fairly minimal, you know, dough on my hands there, which is great. And then now I'll be putting the butter on top. Now actually that butter's cooled a little bit, and I'll be putting the butter and the salt anyway on there. I've got my salt. Actually, I should put that salt in the butter. I might just mix that through. So it is pretty tough. That is a tough, you know, piece of dough there. It's not meant to be super pliable or, you know, ready to go. And that's totally fine. So, mixing that in. Sorry, I should have paused that. Anyway, I'm getting all this butter out. This is going to be a longer video. And getting all the butter and the salt out of that container. Okay, it's really been about 5 minutes now, so that's fine. It's ready to go for the next one. And what we want to do is, I just kind of mash it over there a bit. Alright, first stretch and fold. And if I hold it down sometimes, this base here, pull the front out, and it's going to break a little bit as you do it. I'm going to tuck that butter in there and stretch and folding it into the middle. Now this is where I pulverized went wrong, and I really smashed down hard with my fist, because I found like with the butter in there you could really smash it down, because it's actually just softened just a little bit, and then I just pushed the butter through really well. I thought, oh, that's great. But I did it twice in a row and I totally destroyed it. So these little things make big differences. I don't know how. That was the only variable that I did differently for 2 weeks in a row, and I've been doing this for years, and it totally changed it, and I was so not happy with it. So just going to be sticking to the stretch and folds from now on. And as I said, these stretch and folds now that you'll do, that you don't see, I'm doing more than just stretch and fold. I'm still wanting to incorporate that butter, and see how this is kind of falling apart. Probably not the best thing for it, so I'm just going to leave it there like that, and then I turn it over. So that's very mishmashed, but that's the first kind of stretch and fold, I guess, officially. Now I'm supposed to wait every half an hour and do that for 4 to 6 times. Now I don't have the time to do that, as always, so I'll be doing this every probably 10 minutes, honestly, to every 20 minutes over the next little while, until that all incorporates really, really well. And your most important thing, you know if you've got the right batch, you've got the dough right, if it puffs within the first 6 to 15 hours of that first rise. If it's puffy, like you'll see it go puffy. I do this always usually pretty much always on a Friday night. I'm just doing this in the morning this time, but it will go puffy. If it doesn't, it's just not going to be right. It's just not going to be a good batch, and I've found that is 100% the case. So anyway, I normally put this in the oven. I might just preheat it, or put some hot water in the bottom of the pan just to get it going, and then kind of go from there. Alrighty. And maybe I'll just reiterate the actual process here again, and that is that once I've gone through this stage of the first rise, and it takes a long time, like I do mine overnight, do it at almost ended at 10 or 11 on a Friday night, and then I'm not usually actually cutting it and shaping it after the first rise. You only ever cut it and shape it after the first rise, and then you're placing it, and then you're letting it go for the second rise into its full shape, and then you stick it in the fridge, or you're cooking it, one of the two. So yeah. Okay, it's only been a few minutes, but so I pop mine over the other way, always. So I'm always stretching and folding on this one side. And this is really fallen apart, probably a bit too much, but that's all right. It's important to incorporate the butter, but also not over, knead it, I found from, recently. So just doing this enough, that's kind of enough. Popping it over again, and then I'm going to leave it again. Okie dokie. All right, so now I've just taken it out of the oven for the second one. So we're going to pull it and turn this upside down. Now it sits nice, and this has been a good half an hour actually. Very, very soft now. Folding that over. This is how I do my stretch and folds, at least anyway. It's a little bit apart there, which I don't like, but anyway. And then it's starting to toughen up now. I can feel that after it's really, really soft. It's toughening up. Stretch and fold, flopping up upside down. And then that's it. And now that'll go into the next half an hour into the oven again for the third one. Okay, I've only waited another 10 minutes. I forgot to put it in the oven because I got busy doing other things. Anyway, pop it over. Okay, here we go from the other side again as always. Fold. Nice fold, because you want to have the fold. That's where the air bubbles get created. In the fold, so stretching it right over. Stretch. Kind of keeps, so now it's toughening up. And we're starting to get a bit of formation there as well, which is great. Okay. Alright, into the oven. And oops, I have warmed up that oven, and so that's just nice and warm in there, and it just tucks in there for a little while. Okay, here's the next one. Again, I've only left it for like 10-15 minutes, but anyway, half an hour definitely is your better one. And I'm not sure even if this is actually technically correct, but I'm really sure it's pretty close to technically doing it for a stretch and fold. And see now it's forming, it's quite, it's forming, those little lumps are going. Yeah, it's coming up nicely. I think that will puff. That definitely looks like that'll puff, and that will be really good. Okay, getting there now. And I can tell this is going to be a good loaf. It's going to be good. Puffing. It just looks like it's full. Probably not puffing yet, but looks like it's full. Great. All that butter that kind of sticks to the outsides, etc. does make sure you do get it on the outsides and you get it incorporated. And there will be a fair bit of butter that does come off on your fingers, but yeah, it gets there, and it kind of keeps a nice seal on it as well, because sometimes the flour can dry out, particularly when you're just in a dry oven, when you don't have any moisture in there. So it's good. It kind of gives it that nice little layer. Okay, now this will be my last one. So looking great. Right, nice and soft. Fold right over. Fold right over. Fold right over. Okay, now, I think my oven may be used today, so just in case it is now, I'm going to stick that into this container here. I'm going to let that go then for the rest of the day now, and I think someone else is using the oven, so I'll come back to that after today, come home tonight, and hopefully that'll probably be doubled in size, and then I will do my cut and shapes then. So remember, cut and shapes, putting into the pan at the end of that first rise. Then we're rising it, and I might even rise it overnight tonight, I would say, and then putting it into the fridge to whenever I need to cook it from then. Okie dokie, thank you. Oh, so remember what temperature where you actually store the dough to rise will make a big difference. I think, about the 32 is the optimal, is the best temperature. If it's colder, it will just take a little bit longer. And also you don't want to have it anywhere near sunlight, as that kills it. So, yeah. Okay, so I've left this now, I've come back from work, and this is actually a perfect mix. This is exactly what it looks like. Actually, let's pull that right out. That's puffed right up, as you can see. Yep, there you go. So perfectly puffy. Really, really good. Okay, lovely top. And because it is so puffy, I am going to just do one more stretch and fold just to kind of, you see all these bubbles in there? That's perfect. And it smells right on point as well. So this is exactly what I do, because I'm making 2 batches here. So I'm splitting this in half, and I can measure this to actually make this more accurate. But I'm not going to. Now that is the perfect, you can see there all those bubbles that have created and have grown. That's just absolutely lovely. So that is, I can tell, a little bit smaller. So I'm just gonna get that to that. Still a little bit less weightier. So I'm gonna end that there. So I'm gonna pop that away and come back to that in a second. Always working, well, I always do this anyway, always working with that. That's the surface that I've always stretched and fold from anyway. But what I will do is cut that in half and cut that one in half again.
What is that contraption?
Okay, so I'm getting the top of that, and I am stretching and folding it once more. Okay? This is really important to having it pop up high. You have to do this to have it pop up high. So I'm going to keep doing this until this is really nice and tight. Yep. And then I'm going to grab that and just twist that. I just twist that over at the end just to kind of tuck it in, and then I'm putting that on my bread tray. So I've already greased that up with coconut oil, which I like to use, which is from Costco. That's virgin coconut oil. There are many different ways I think you can do the stretch and fold. This is how I do it, and it turns out really quite great. And I can tell this is a really good batch of dough. It's done very, very well. It's risen perfectly. Okay, so that's my tray now. That's exactly, obviously you can use baking paper. That's absolutely fine. You don't need to put oil in it, obviously, if you have baking paper, no worries at all. But I just do this as a habit. I either melt some milk with the coconut oil, or else I'll just literally do this with my hands. It just depends. Usually I do it with a brush. But this will stop in the fridge, having this kind of greased over here. This will stop in the fridge any kind of, fridge burn or drying out. because it's got the layer of oil over it. Yeah, and that is good to go now in the fridge. What other tips are there? So yeah, I let it go for about an hour or 2 hours in the fridge, and then I'll put a cover over it. Actually, sorry, no, the next thing I do now is it needs to actually go for its second rise. So totally forgot about that. So these need to puff right up and usually fill or majority fill the base there and puff up to about this high. So and obviously don't overinflate them by going too long, but you can really take them a long time. And again, the longer you go, the more that tang actually gets in there. So yeah. All right, so both trays are now both done, and they're ready to go for their second rise. Now it is about 5 o'clock at night, so they're probably not going to be done by 10 or 11 o'clock at night when I go to sleep. So I'm going to probably have to have them rise overnight, which will be a little bit risky. So I'll have to put them in the fridge early in the morning. Okie dokie. All right, so here they are. I've gotten these out of the fridge early this morning. With the extra, I put a little bit of hot water in the pan so it helped them pop a bit better, as they weren't doing anything last night at all. So just in case I helped them come up, that's enough for me. They actually a little bit above there, and they're filled out mostly. That's good enough. You actually can go further, but sometimes I find that if you're going to keep them in the fridge for any longer, then they'll actually start to fall down and cave in a little bit. So that's perfectly about right. I do turn the hot plate on a little bit just to, because this is really cold coming out of the fridge, and I'll just put it over a little bit until I see the oil in the bottom just kind of start to melt a little bit, which means it's basically back to room temperature, just so it doesn't go in cold. Anyway, have my oven on high, and I've got the pan in the bottom there because I used to rust the bottom of the oven. Anyway, stick them in there, get my ice, and that's it. Sorry that was done pretty quickly, but I'll now turn that down to 180. And the reason I just used that is because I was rusting out a little bit of the oven. So it's down to 180 now. I'll put my timer on for 35 minutes, and I want to turn it over at about 25 minutes, 20 minutes in. I'll turn it around. Anyway, the steam helps the crust, and yeah, that's about it. Okay, so that's the finished product. It's actually the second batch. I forgot to take it off the first batch, but yeah. So I take them out one at a time, but that's what they look like. Nice and crusty. Perfect.
Whoa, Ella. Oh yeah, it's in your overfill.
Okay, so that's the finished product, and that's what you're left with there. A nice and crusty loaf. Oh, you see that, but that's hot. Lovely. And you've got to be super careful when you're cutting these. So as you cut them, they can be a bit crusty, so you've got to, sometimes you've got to wait in half an hour, but don't press down on them and don't squash them.